Hello crafty friends, this is the Paper Chef here. In today's Brother ScanNCut Tips and Tricks tutorial, you're going to learn how to create stencils. We'll be creating stencils out of Mylar. You can then use the stencils for creating stamping masks, do-it-yourself ornaments, silhouettes for cards. I mean, the possibilities are really endless, and I just wanted to go over the big picture before I get started, so that you can understand that it doesn't matter what materials you have, you can follow along and do this and create your own stencils. All right, so the concept is, I just got my Paper Pumpkin kit in the mail, and it's awesome. Paper Pumpkin is awesome. It's a subscription service we offer by Stampin. And inside were silver deer, okay? And there's nothing wrong with silver deer. I love silver deer. Here's the silver deer. And there were 6 of them on a sheet. And I was like, I would like to have more of those, and I would like to have some that aren't silver, and I would like to create my own ornaments with those, and my mind just started going. And this, not only that, this kit, it's called a Winter Gifts. It coordinates with last month's kit. So I'm like, oh, I could put the deer onto the cards from last month. I could make ornaments like I made with my moose. Let me show you what I mean. And then so I just said I need to make a stencil, and I need to show my crafty friends how to make stencils. Okay, so I made moose using a stamping on wood technique, and I also used my stencil to fill it in. So this is something I was already doing. I showed you how to create moose stencils last month. Let's see if these come out. Okay, so Merry Christmas. And I was like, I could do this with the deer. I could create a stencil and make some ornaments with my deer head. Okay, so not as rustic, but still cool. Okay, so that was just all my mind was flowing. Now, when I say stencil, I mean, it's not that you can't just use it as a stencil. There's 6 silver deer came in a sheet. Let's show you that. Okay, I'm still doing the overview here. 6 silver deer came in a sheet. So you could have created ornaments using this as a stencil, this piece of paper as a stencil, but this piece of paper is not reusable. Okay, so when you cut it out in Mylar, however, this is Mylar, and I'll have a link to the Mylar I use. Then you can reuse it, wash it, etc., etc. Okay. Not only that, once you have it in your Brother ScanNCut, once you have this deer in your Brother ScanNCut, which I'm going to show you how to get it in there, you're going to be able to save it and then resize it. I've done the reverse of it. So this is you can use both sides of it. You can cut it out in different colors. I mean, boy, my mind's running. I don't know about yours. The possibilities are endless. Paper Pumpkins come in these cool boxes. Our subscription service, you never know what you're going to get, so it's a crafty surprise each month. So if you want to subscribe to Paper Pumpkin, this video is dedicated to my Paper Pumpkin subscribers. Every month I give you ideas on what to do with your Paper Pumpkin kits, and so that video is to come. All right, so what I did so far, all I did was take the silver. There's a silver stencil, not a stencil, the silver piece that came in my Paper Pumpkin kit. You punched out 6 deer. See, it's silver. I don't like to scan silver up. I like to scan, whenever I have like shiny colors, I like to put the shiny colors down, because the ScanNCut has a lot of, issues when you try to scan silver and gold and the light shines in funny ways. I get better results when I turn my paper over so the white side is facing up. Okay, I should have turned this whole thing into a sticker and got it to stay onto the cardstock a little better. But live and learn, because some of it was getting caught as it goes in the ScanNCut. So hopefully it won't get caught this time when I show you this. So your first step is take your whatever you have. Now it can be, I'm still doing an overview because I don't want anybody to say, I don't have a Paper Pumpkin kit, Paper Chef, I can't follow along. Yes, you can. You take anything. It doesn't matter what you have in your house. It's you punched out a sticker. You punch out something. You scan in a stamped image. It doesn't matter what you're starting with. You're just starting with something crisp, okay? So I'm starting with something crisp by putting it on, taking the white piece that came in the Paper Pumpkin and putting it on black cardstock. So I have good contrast, okay? So you follow along with whatever materials you have. Don't give up and say, I don't have a Paper Pumpkin kit. It really doesn't matter what you have. All right, that was a long overview, but that's because this is gonna be pretty cool, intense tutorial with some advanced techniques here. All right, so you are going to start out, you're going to load your mat. Okay, I've already loaded my mat. You're going to load your mat with this button. That's this button here. Tape your stencil on so it doesn't slip. Hopefully this will work. first try. And you're going to, when you turn on your machine, you're going to see pattern and scan. We want to select scan. We are not doing direct cut like we normally do. We are using scan to cut data. That way we will have the deer in our machine. And it's pretty big, so I'm going with the 12 by 12 recognition, 12 by 12 area, scan area. But you could, if you only had a small stencil to make, you could select 12 by 6. By the way, I'm using an SDX125. This entire thing I'm showing you works with a CM series, but sometimes I need a deep cut blade to cut Mylar with the CM series, which you don't ever need with the SDX because it cuts really thick materials. But I mean, I've got it to work without a deep cut blade. Anyway, let's not digress. I had to take a little piece of painter's tape off there because it was selecting it as a one big square. I'm going to say scan to cut data, start. If you put too much painter's tape around your image, just a troubleshooting tip, you might have to remove some because it'll help like enclose the mat that you're trying to scan in, and it maybe makes your whole thing scan in as one big rectangular square. And so I want the deer to be recognized as individual images. So we'll see how it did. It's recognizing something. Okay, we're going to see what happened. Okay, so our three choices when you scan to cut data are the outside of the images, that's what we want. The inside and outside, if you were to try to do your cardinal, the cardinals that came in the kit, which I haven't tried yet, but this kind of stencil, if you're trying to make this kind of stencil, you would want the inside and outside of the images because there's inside parts of the cardinal. Okay, and then this one is just all the lines. That's scanning all the lines on the mat. So we want the first option, just the outside. Okay, so we want the outside, and let's see if it got the deer. I'm going to frame this in and see what happened. I don't want all the deer, but we're just going to get them all for now. Preview. I'm going to see what happened. And you can also ignore object size. Okay, you could say, like if there's extra bits that you don't want, you could ignore objects maybe up to an inch or so, but without ignoring your deer itself. Okay, I don't know, let's just ignore some objects in case there's any stray bits, and we'll say okay. And I think I do have a big piece of tape in there, but that's okay because we'll show you how to get rid of it. And let's say okay, and let's see what happened. Okay, it's asking where we want to save this data. So I like to just scan to cut data on my machine. You could also save it to Canvas Workspace if you have your account set up and linked to your machine, or you could save it to a USB or a thumb drive. Okay, let's just save it to our machine. Okay, now let's go get it and see what happened. Okay, we have to, in order to see how it's saved, we're going to go back to the home screen. And yes, you could delete all patterns because remember, we saved it, scan to cut data. So let's retrieve the data. We're going to retrieve the data. Where from? Our machine, because that's where we just saved it. If you had saved it somewhere else, you would retrieve it from somewhere else. Okay, now let's scroll down and get the last file. All right, there are my deer. Most of my deer are saved except for one, and I also have, it looks like I have a few stray bits at the bottom. So let me show you what I mean by stray bits and how to get rid of those. We're going to get rid of more than just the deer, but see how the piece of tape got scanned in, that piece there. So I want to get rid of that as well. And I just want one deer. So actually, we can go ahead and trash whatever we don't want. So let's pick, let's go ahead and say okay. Don't trash now, say okay. Don't trash it at the very beginning because you're trashing the scan to cut data file. You want to trash it in the editing mode. So once you get into where it says edit, then if you want to trash different parts, which I do, see like that piece of tape, definitely trash that. So at this point, say you wanted to make a stencil and you wanted to like say, put a few deer in it, then you can just move your deer around. They're all individual, but I don't. I just want one deer and I'm going to show you how to make a stencil. If you want to make multiple deer, even more than I have here, you can select the deer, any deer. Well, don't select this deer. This deer's legs are stuck together. Look, let me show you. See how its legs are stuck together? In other words, the gap didn't scan in. This little gap. So we'll get rid of him. We don't want to multiply one that didn't come out right. You need the legs to be, you need that little opening. So let's get rid of him so we don't accidentally use him. We want the ones that are good. In fact, out of all those, we'll see which one's the best before you multiply it. Because I want to show you what to do with the scan to cut data. We're not really going to multiply it. I'm just showing my crafty friends because this is an advanced tutorial. Okay, I like him. These are all good. This one's probably the best over here. Let's see. Yeah, these all came out good. So let's trash everything except for the one. Trash. And because I only want one stencil. I'm going to kind of make it up in the top right, but never make your stencil too close to the edge. Because when you need some space around your Mylar when you're working with the stencil. All right, so in the scan to cut data, we got five deer that scanned in. Out of the 5 deer, 4 were perfect. 1 had fused legs, so we had 4 perfect deer. We chose the best one. Now we're going to say okay, and I want to show you what you could do with it before we just actually cut it out. Now I'm not going to resize mine. I'm just showing you how to. Okay, just for the benefit of my crafty friends, you go to Object Edit, and you can resize. Okay, and you can duplicate. So go here to the first one. You can make it bigger. I'm not going to. I like the size. It's perfect for bookmarks and tags. But if you wanted to, you can make it bigger there. If you want to duplicate it, you can do that there, and the number. If you want to rotate it, right there. We don't need mirror images and all that, because we don't need a mirror image, because the thing is, the Mylar, when you cut out Mylar, you can flip it over. See-through. All right, so at this point, I just want to mention that if you have last month's paper pumpkin kit, okay, it's winter wishes, because this one's called winter gifts. They coordinate, and I did a whole tutorial on how to make more of these little cardinals. Okay, we made more of these little poppy parade cardinals. I actually just used direct cut, but still, you can use what I'm showing you to make more of these little cardinals. In fact, you can use what I'm showing you to make more of anything. So yes, more embellishments are better. So let's say okay. So we've scanned it in, big picture. We've scanned to cut data. We saved it. We retrieved the file. We got rid of all the deer except for one. Now we're going to cut it out. Okay, important now. There's a couple settings to do, and it's important to just leave you're just going to peel this off the mat. Peel this off the mat. My mat's not very sticky, obviously. Let's get rid of this cardinals. I was just showing you that as examples. I'm going to take my Mylar now. I'm going to replace. Now I don't need to, I could have just, since I have scan to cut data, I could have come back to this days later. But now what we're about to do is cut out a stencil. We're about to make one of these in Mylar. Okay, I didn't need to, I could unload my mat. I could unload my mat and come back to this days later and cut out my stencil. But I just happen to be cutting out my stencil right now, so I'm just not unloading my mat. I'm replacing the cardstock with Mylar material. Okay, so now when I cut Mylar, here's some settings I particularly do. Your auto blade should handle it and cut the Mylar just fine. I, however, like to go into settings. Whenever I'm cutting thick material, doesn't matter what, I like to slow my speed down. When I say slow, I always slow as in relation to the default setting. The speed is set to 5. The default setting has a black square around it. That's how you know it's the default setting. There's a black square. So I always like to lower my speed. 3 is good speed for this kind of machine. If I was using a ScanNCut 2, I might lower it even more to 2, to speed it 2. But I'm using the SDX. Okay, cut pressure. I like to increase the cut pressure. Okay, I like to make it high pressure whenever I'm cutting thick materials. So let's make it a pressure of 7. And then the blade depth is auto blade. So I can't change the blade depth even if I wanted to. So the blade depth is auto blade because I'm using SDX. However, if I was using a CM model, I'd have to go up to a high blade depth or use the deep cut blade. All right, so we've changed the settings. The settings will be in the description. And now I'm ready. I hit cut, and I'm going to hit cut and just make the stencil. And then I will show you, of course. I'm going to show my crafty friends what I've done with the stencil that I created of this deer. And you can just do this with whatever you have. Make stencils. I mean, just the possibilities are endless. Kids would love this because they can You can make stencils of the alphabet for them. Let them sponge color it and learn the alphabet. I mean, just, it doesn't matter what you make a stencil of. You're basically, instead of cutting out in paper, you're cutting out in Mylar. And the advantages, again, of this Mylar or acetate material, you can use acetate as well. Well, acetate and plastic, whatever. It's just that you can wash it off when you're done. That's what's really nice. Okay, it's trying to maybe do it second time, and I'm going to stop it if it did it. Hold on. Yep, I'm stopping it. All right, so whenever it sees thick material, it's going to do it a second time. If you just do a little test, let me show you why I stopped it. Okay, I stopped it because it worked. See, look. See my little, look, it worked. It's trying to do a second cut. I don't want it to do a second cut. If it didn't work and I noticed it was really thick and it didn't work, I would let it do a second cut. But a second cut is risky, meaning it may not go over yes, it's electronic and all that, but it may, my Mylar could slip. It might not do it exactly the same way. Anyway, if I get a good successful cut and I see it starting to do a second cut, I hit quit. But it really won't hurt anything. But it's just, when you see how delicate these little antlers are, you're going to see why I did that. All right, now let's go and unload the mat. And we're going to resave this. We're going to resave this so we can use it again. So meaning go back and hit save. I'm just saving this ScanNCut data. If I don't resave it, I'm going to have those 5 deer again. I'm going to overwrite it, okay? Overwrite it, save it to the machine. Now we're done with that. So I can now show you this part. I can show you what I did with this and how to use this. So I have my piece of Mylar and I'm going to peel that off. Now, if you had just done this whole, if you just followed along with my tutorial and you happen to be using a stamped image, then hey, how cool is it that now you have a stamping mask? And I've shown how to make stamping mask on this channel. Meaning, if you had just done a stamped images, this part can be used to cover the stamped image while you stamp the background of your scene. Okay? But I just happen to be using it for other purposes. And I never do tutorials unless I'm actually going to use what I make and I have a reason to do it. Okay? So I always show you the crafty projects that I'm working on and that I make with this technique. Again, paper pumpkin kits come with amazing supplies, and as I mentioned at the beginning, there's nothing wrong with silver deer. Okay, so if I want to make more silver deer, then I would just take this deer and go into the ScanNCut data and multiply it, make a whole page of deer, and cut out silver deer. However, I don't need any more silver deer. I have 6 of those. I was thinking a lot of my paper this season is foiled in gold. Okay, so my paper is foiled in gold. For example, this is my first project I'm going to show you because I always show you examples. This wrapped in plaid designer series paper has gold foiling in it. So it would have been really silly if I had taken one of the silver deer and put it on here. When there's gold, it wouldn't have been silly because it probably actually looks, actually that looks pretty nice. I just noticed I could actually do a little shadow effect. Let's not digress. But there are gold lines through here, gold foiling in the wrapped in plaid paper. So I decided to make a gold deer. Okay, and I'm using this gold foil that we sell. This is from the, Most Wonderful Time. I've been using this little embossed star all the time. It's from the Most Wonderful Time medley. And this Love and Joy is from here. It's from the paper pumpkin. It's the stamp. I stamped it in shaded spruce. Shaded spruce also happens to be one of the colors that coordinates with this kit this month. Okay, and then I used Night of Navy as my background. I used the shaded spruce ribbon that came in the paper pumpkin kit, and I used a little bit of tinsel trim that came in the Most Wonderful Time medley. So that's my bookmark example. Again, I just took ScanNCut data, I opened it up, and I cut a deer in foil. And then I cut it in both ways. I cut a deer going that way and a deer going that way just by flipping the foil over. I could have just mirror imaged my, I could have done a mirror image as well. All right, let's see what else I have for you. I had some, I don't know what I did with my extra gold deer I made. All right, so stencil itself. Let's get into the stencil itself. So stamping onto wood. Again, I'm just going by what I was making last month, or not last month, a couple weeks ago. I made these ornaments, and I used wrapped in plaid, and I was using the Merry Christmas set. Now, in this case, when I made these ornaments, I actually just stamped Stays On ink first. I stamped the mousse and stays on ink right onto the wood, but then I did use my stencil to help me fill in any gaps. So after I was done, I put my stencil down and I did use it. Okay, now for these I used Night of Navy because I just have a lot of Night of Navy ink and I have a refill and this takes a lot of ink. Let me show you how I did this. Okay, so I stamped onto wood by just putting the wood down, putting the stencil over the wood, and I just took a little sponge and Night of Navy. And when I say sponge, I was using a tiny sponge, not my normal big sponges I use, not my distress sponges. I used a little finger sponge. And if I had it, and it's not, I don't know where it is, but I would show you. It's just a little, we have called what's in Stampin' Up, we have sponge daubers. In fact, I'll link to the materials I used. They're little finger sponges. And I used Night of Navy and I made the little deer head. And then I did another one and you put the silver. So now I have ornaments. And if I want to put gold trim on them, then I'll put them in these little pockets I made. These are so simple to make. They're just a little diaper fold. And this is wrapped in plaid. These are the ones I made before. So I could take, and I showed you guys how to cut out these trees in the ScanNCut out of the pattern paper. So I can add a little tree there and a little sentiment, and I can probably do the same thing with these deer as I did there. And my last project is really, I think, what stencils are all about. Let's make our life simple. Let's make some elegant cards and things. Just let's get back to the basics and do some simple stamping. And that's what I did for this one. It's just simple stamping, meaning I took my stencil. This is from the Notes of Kindness card kit. Sometimes I just like to use, not sometimes, all the time. Whenever I have card kits, I like to just use the cards that are already cut out in the pieces for me. This took me, I don't know, 1 minute to make, and I'm going to use it as a thank you card for my care packages for like my channel supporters. So if you want to be a channel supporter, you get fun, happy mail from me. If you give me your address, obviously. All right, so there is how I did this. I took a card, I put it down, I went like that, plunk, and I just sponge colored it with, again, a finger sponge. Okay, and that's it. So I used crumb cake, and I get the little deer there, and now I can make a bazillion of them if I want. And I wrote Season's Greetings, and that's in Shaded Spruce, and that was from the right here. The Season's Greeting is from last month's Paper Pumpkin kit, which coordinates, and the Shaded Spruce is the coordinating color for this month. Okay, so that's it. Those are 3 projects. I mean, my mind's going. I hope yours is too, of all the different things you can do with this. Oh, there's my other gold deer. I was going to put it onto this little card here I was going to start to make. I'll probably be doing a tutorial soon on all the things you can make with last month's or this month's Paper Pumpkin kit. So, stay tuned for that, whether you're a Paper Pumpkin subscriber or not. I always try to take all these materials and I'll start out by probably making these tags that are beautiful as they are, and then I'll vary it up, and I've already started playing around and making some alternate projects. All right, well, thank you for watching. This is The Paper Chef, and if you're new, please subscribe to my channel. That's all for now.